premier industry event of 2023. It's time to touch the future of supply chains. It's time for ProMat. To succeed today, your supply chain needs to be more resilient, faster, and sustainable. At ProMat, you'll find the tools you need to shock-proof your operations and move your business forward for future success. ProMat 2023 is where the supply chain world comes together in person at an event unlike any other. An opportunity to find solutions, connect with your peers and leading solutions providers, and learn the latest trends and technologies that can help you touch the future of supply chain success. The future of supply chains is within your grasp. Reach out and touch it at ProMat 2023. Go to ProMatShow.com for more information and to register for free admission to the ProMat Exhibits and Educational Conference.
All right. Welcome, everyone. So excited you are joining us today on this Tuesday afternoon. My name is Jake Hall, the Manufacturing Millennial, and we have an absolutely great discussion planned ahead and really just some amazing information we hope to bring to you. This is the 2023 Supply Chain and Manufacturing Outlook. And today, we're going to be having some amazing guests I'd like to introduce you. First of all, John Paxton. He is the CEO of MHI. And we also have Daniel McKinnon. He is the Executive Vice President of Exhibitions. And really leading up to this entire conversation we're going to be having today, it's the focus on coming up with ProMat. And leading up to ProMat, it's going to be an event happening in Chicago in March, or more specifically, we're going to be having it March 20th through the 23rd. And we hope through this conversation today that you will look like putting that on your calendar. But to kick things off, John, let's start with you. John, do you mind giving us an introduction of who you are and also who MHI is?
Sure, Jake. It's great to be here, and a little bit about my background. I joined right out of college. I was a mechanical engineer and joined DMAG Overhead Cranes and worked for that company for about 30 years. And during that time, I led the company in the North American business for about 15 years. And through that course of being a part of DMAG, we actually were members of MHI. We were members of their industry groups. They have the Crane Manufacturers Association, the Hoist Manufacturers Association, and they have 18 different verticals underneath the MHI umbrella. So we were members of MHI and joined that as a volunteer. And through the volunteering stages, led various industry groups, and then also was asked to be on the MHI board. So if you fast forward, after I went through the board chairs, the CEO of MHI put up his hand and said he was going to retire. And subsequently, I put up my hand and said I'd be interested in that position. So I've been the CEO now at MHI for the past 2 years. And it's been quite a dynamic 2 years, as you can imagine, in supply chain.
Yeah, and that indeed it has. It's man, you really stepped on board as CEO right when, boy, supply chain was at the conversation of every mainstream news outlet that there was, talking about when are we going to get our stuff quicker and faster. And as we have an audience joining us today, we'd love for you guys to share where are you from, where are you watching from, and, if you're going to be attending ProMat. But with that, Daniel, you go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Great. Really appreciate everybody tuning in for this. We're excited about it, excited to talk to you guys. I have been in the trade show business my entire career, a little over 30 years, 31 years, and have produced trade shows and exhibitions and meetings of various sizes, scope and scale. I have worked a lot overseas, but I will say that the opportunity to work at MHI on these amazing trade shows, Modex and ProMat, has really been fantastic. It has really demonstrated the value of face-to-face engagement and the opportunities that exist when you bring together buyers and sellers of products and technologies and users of technologies. So we provide that platform here at MHI via Modex and ProMat, and we think that these shows do help our members and provide great value and great benefit to them. And we've demonstrated via Modex that we're able to come out of the pandemic with really strong interaction, and ProMat's going to really exceed our expectations as well. So we're very excited and and look forward to welcoming this audience and a larger audience. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of amazing conversations that are gonna be happening at the event. And I think we should kick things off with you, John. Going through your website and everything that's popping up, and that's gonna be happening at the event. Besides the major expos, we have a lot of amazing conversations, and one of those is you giving a full, I guess you could say, industry report on the supply chain and material handling. Can you give us some teasers on? We're a month away from that report. Can you give us some teasers on what's happening in the industry right now? What do you view as the current state of the supply chain, both domestically but also, internationally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we and on Wednesday of the show, we'll kick off the annual industry report, and what that is we survey the marketplace. We survey over 1,000 executives in supply chain and ask them, how are they seeing the industry? What are the key trends? Also, what is the adoption rate of technology, all the different types of technology? How do they see that now? And how do they see that going forward? So the report brings that together. And then as we have our keynote, we actually have industry leaders on the stage as panelists, and they can describe specifically what they're seeing in their industry, what they're seeing in their businesses, and how it relates to the feedback from the report. So some examples of key findings of the report that we'll unveil, certainly workforce remains a challenge. Everybody you talk to, I just attended the Retail Logistics Association conference. Everyone's talking about workforce. How do you get the people in to do the jobs? And the solution to that certainly is automation. Is how do you automate? How do you take out the mundane processes? How do you increase efficiency? So the automation piece, we'll watch and see specifically how that's being adopted and the investment that's going on in that space. Along with a key part is the adoption or the data and the use of the data and providing the transparency of supply chain. So you can imagine with all the disruptions that we've had over the past several years, the key is how do you connect the supply chain? How do you make sure you understand where things are when there's problems? How do you adapt to those? So data and data transparency will be another highlight of the report. And then the report will feature also sustainability. And that's becoming more and more of in the spotlight, in view of supply chains. And as supply chains, coming globally, and ships and transporting and all the trucking and freight, it's really becoming an important part of the supply chain. How do you understand your carbon footprint, and also how do you put measurements in place so that you can make improvements in that? So those are the three highlights, the workforce and challenge and automation, the data and data transparency, and also the sustainability piece.
No, that's great. And I think it's important, right? Each one of those is going to have an impact. We're actually I have some questions regarding each one of those later on in the conversation. And with that, if there are questions, we'd love for you in the audience. If you have questions that you want to ask John or Daniel or myself, put them in the chat and we'll try and answer those along the way if you have anything that you want to ask. But, with that, Daniel, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming show. And you mentioned MODEX. MODEX was the first show that I attended last year in 2021. It was a thriving event, and I think there was a lot of things going on. And I think one of the things that I remember posting on LinkedIn coming out of that is if anyone had any doubt that trade shows would not recover coming out of the pandemic, they were wrong, because it was a massively well-attended show with a lot of cool technologies. But can you talk about some of the big takeaways from what happened at MODEX, and then also what you expect some of the big takeaways to come from ProMat this year? And for the audience, if you don't know, Daniel, I guess can you explain what MODEX is and what ProMat is? And how I guess people are like, well, what's MODEX? What's ProMat? Why are we talking about two different shows? Maybe even start with that.
So they're very similar in demographics and in product categories and lines of business. MODEX is held in the even years, and really we focus more on the full supply chain at Modex, whereas ProMat has traditionally been more intra-logistics. However, that's our marketing, that's our philosophy. It turns out that they really incorporate. We're getting so much diversity of attendee and exhibitor. Although to be an exhibitor, you must be MHI member qualified. Encourage anybody that's going to exhibit or Modex to join our community and be a part of our association. So as far as differences, those would be much harder to define than similarities would be. There's also some regional uniqueness that one would consider as appropriate for Modex. Is in the Southeast, and there's tremendous port action down there, and intermodal, and a lot of things that we don't see at Chicago at ProMat. But the Chicagoland and the Midwest and the manufacturing base, it's so huge, it's so important, it's so significant there that we actually see a larger attendance at ProMat than we do at Modex. It's a bigger show. It's actually about 35% bigger. And that being noted, you brought up, if anybody doesn't believe in the power of trade shows, or if they don't think they've come back. Well, we actually were surprised. I would say pleasantly surprised. I don't like it. People say that's a good problem to have, but we did not anticipate so many people coming to Atlanta last March. We were able to accommodate it, and we were thrilled to see that people were returning to our MHI trade shows to accomplish their goals, to find solutions for their businesses. Let me say that contemporary research says like 87% of trade shows were supposed to return to normal by this year. Well, we far exceeded our expectations at Modex 2022. We blew right past them, and we were much larger than we were pre-pandemic. I think a lot of that has to do with some of the things that John was just talking about, and how the industry continues to thrive, and technology continues to be applied to new opportunities for our members, as well as to the Fortune 500 companies that attend, the top 100 retailers, all of the consumer goods companies. They have to find solutions. They have to find efficiencies so that they're able to accommodate the tremendous demand that exists now. I mean, we used to. This is like 2 years. This is almost pre-pandemic. We would joke about, I want my Amazon stuff to be delivered, in an hour. Well, shucks, now if it's not, you're almost upset. So, all of these organizations have to be able to adapt, have to be able to provide their customers with what they want and what they need. And there's where our members come in, our exhibitors come in. They're providing those opportunities to create more efficient platforms and distribution centers and warehouses for their customers.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you plugged in the word efficiency, but also automation with that. It's exciting to see also how much these shows have changed over the last few years. And like the one thing that comes to mind is like, I think I visited my first ProMat event in Chicago. Gosh, probably like somewhere like 2013 or 2015, right when I was getting out of college with engineering school. And when you fast forward almost 10 years now, and you look at all of the new technology that is being built into automation, I think that's just so exciting to see, because that's helping a lot of these, large companies, but also a lot of the small companies as well, really help address some of the problems. So, with that said, John, how is automation really impacting the supply chain? And then what technologies do you see, I guess you could say, really shifting the change rework that are going to be shown in Chicago? So like, what do you think we're going to be seeing from exhibitors in terms of automation or technology or solutions that are going to be getting to really shift how we work in the future?
Yeah, so the first part of your question, I'm sure you know this from the manufacturing and from your manufacturing audience, that automation works really well when you can have repeatability and do the same things over and over. And, robots have been in manufacturing for decades, doing, tasks that you can program them to do over and over again. The challenge with supply chain is that when people order, they order individual items, and they order and that are all different shapes and sizes. And there's really not much that's standard about it. So as the automation adapted from the manufacturing space, some of the things that got and brought it to the supply chain was vision systems on the robots, systems where they actually have now gripping systems that they can grab all different types of products, and then the machine learning piece. And then when you combine that together, suddenly now you have solutions that can handle the diversity of the products that you're seeing in supply chain. So when you take that now with the technology, you see pick and place robots that before were only just being piloted in different applications. Now that's used as a standard in the supply chain. You see automatic mobile robots traveling around on the floors in facilities, taking out the steps for people walking and traveling and bringing shelves to people, for example. And they can operate around people where they can basically see, so they don't run into people. The old AGV method where you put a wire in the floor and the AGV went from point A to point B following the wire. If anything got in the way, you were going to have some sort of difficulty. Now these robots move interactive, and they interact with people, and they move around, and they actually move around each other. So those technologies advance the automation in the handling and transporting. There was always automation in picking and storing equipment with ASRS machines and vertical storage machines. And what you'll see now at ProMat is these systems now are being combined and connected. So before, someone had a robot that could pick things, and that was great. But then they had an AMR that could move things, and that was great. But now what you're seeing are these complete integrated systems that talk to each other, that connect with each other, and have the data transfer so that it's now a seamless type supply chain. And that has evolved. If you came to ProMat even 6 years ago, you would have just seen some of the new technology. And there's a product out there where there's a shuttle system, and the shuttle actually comes out of the shuttle system and goes on the floor and works as an AMR, and then goes back in the shuttle and gets the products. We're seeing AMRs with lifting arms on, with picking arms on them. They go into the storage area, go get the item, and bring it back. So all kinds of cool technologies, and every year I'm amazed at really how fast it develops. And COVID has pushed the envelope because people have been investing and investing in these companies to develop the technologies. The need has been there, and it's amazing to see even year over year from last year from Modex how it's even changed to what you'll see at ProMat this year.
Yeah, I like that. I think the companies that invested in the technology early on really saw the benefit going into the pandemic, where they were able to be a lot more agile in the way they solve their problems. And I think what's exciting is, we're going to see a lot of robots. We're going to see a lot of vision systems. We're going to see a lot of automation. We're going to see a lot of AMRs and AGVs at ProMat through the exhibitions. But, Daniel, we're also going to see, the key components of all of the manufacturers that make those systems possible, right? We can have an AGV or an AMR that's doing stuff, but if we don't have a caster supplier, for example, but my neighbor works for a casting company just down the road from me, and I know they're going to be at ProMat, so that's why I said casters. But we need casting, we need casters to do that stuff. We need belts that are going to allow us to have a lot of motion for the robot to pick off of. Can you dive into more? It's not just the latest technology. It's also a lot of the, I don't know, is grit the right word? Like the base of what technology and what solutions in the supply chain industry can be built on.
Yes, it's something, we always talk about amongst ourselves and within our association. We have industry groups that represent the variety of the distribution center requirements and needs, and I think those really are sort of the backbone of the association. The trade shows give us a chance to show not just robotics and automations and AMRs and all the really cool things, that people want to see. But it also, for like the integrator, I mean, the people that are actually going to be creating these spaces, the racks are just as important, and the lift trucks and all of the things that are required for the word efficiency again are so necessary. If you look at ProMat coming up and the scale of it, it's right now it's like at 565,000 square feet of just exhibitors, and it's 1,065 exhibiting companies, and of that, if half of them are high technology, that's great, because that's, if we have so many high tech companies, that really draws a lot of the people, especially like these larger Fortune 500 companies that really are looking to spend some investment in trying to create a better opportunities. But we really, I go back to the industry groups. We thrive on the overhead stuff and on the racks and on the things that are really required to even make that automation and even make those new robotic solutions work. So I think that's very important. People, you don't just come to see the robots; you come to see the full service, the full spectrum of the supply chain, of the intralogistics options that exist.
Yeah, I think that's what's exciting about it, is that, John, you mentioned earlier, and then Daniel, you just added on to that as well, where we've seen more than ever in the last few years that companies are really leveraging, integrating with other solutions out there, which is really helping drive productivity. And I think that's just what we're going to see more and more with over 1,000 exhibitors that are there. You might see one exhibitor, but that exhibitor could also be featuring or highlighting 15 or 20 other different solutions that other exhibitors are also showing in their booth. And I think that's what's really exciting, is you're not just seeing a company show off a camera, but there's an end user that's using that camera, that's communicating to a robot to handle piece picking that is randomized, that's coming out of a bin, that's being put on top of another robot, that's then being placed onto a pallet. It really gives you a better understanding of directly how each solution can be applied to you, where it's not just, hey, here's a bunch of cool stuff, figure out how it's going to work for you. It's kind of showing the people who are walking on the show floor ways that can solve it. So with that being said, and the people walking, on the show floor, I remember thinking last year that at Modex, I want to say there was travel restrictions that were still in place for a lot of people that, wanted to attend Modex. But this year, I think it's changed with ProMat. Can you talk to me more about what we're going to be looking at, Daniel, with just international participation, a lot more companies here bringing solutions in the supply chain from a global level?
Yeah, it's really two topics. There's the exhibitor topic and the member topic, and then the visitor topic. And we basically, in Modex 2022, saw a decrease to close to zero international exhibitor participation. We did have some. That's completely changed. We're back to a really healthy percentage of attendees and exhibitors bringing solutions and interesting ideas, and frankly their investment from international regions, countries. We are investing heavily in a program, an international attendee acquisition program, in order to provide more opportunities to our exhibitors and to our members. We are expecting delegations from several regions around the world to come and provide a more robust atmosphere, a more international, more global event. That being said, Canada and Mexico are by far our primary partners in the production of this event, and we love to see them. They're a part of this community. So they were there in 22, just not as many of them. They are our Canadian, our neighbors, I should say, will be there in full force this year. And then as far as the exhibitors, we've always gotten so many from Western Europe and from certain regions. We are seeing the return of some of the Chinese companies, not as many as were in the past, and certainly some really sophisticated companies from Japan and South Korea and other regions that one might anticipate. Turkey, and then of course Western Europe. We have so many really sophisticated organizations that are exhibiting.
Awesome. So I'm actually gonna take a question here from Brett, and you guys feel free to add on this in any way that you want. So the question was, how do you think automation is going to play a role in office jobs such as supply chain managers, buyers, and commodity managers? Also, do you think AI such as ChatGPT is going to play a role in the supply chain in the future? So how is automation changing the way we work, especially from office jobs? Do you want to, John,
Yeah.
Daniel, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I can comment to that. So I was just talking with the supplier today that's building demand forecasting and building AI into their demand forecasting. So if you can imagine in the supply chain over the past couple of years, it was really difficult to forecast demand. I mean, demand doubled, it tripled. I mean, it came flying back, and companies were out of control to be able to figure out what they needed. So they just kept buying more inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately what happened was now a lot of that inventory is showing up and it's turning to excess inventory. And there's companies now that are working in that space from a demand forecasting point of view and a purchasing point of view. So I think that is an area that will continue to evolve. And then the other area that I mentioned earlier is the connectivity and the transparency. So from the office work to know exactly where an item is, exactly where the parts are, and to know exactly when you have a breakdown in your supply chain so that you can make adjustments. I think that's where you're going to see more and more of the software and the technology play out. As far as the chat GPT, I think that's something everybody's trying to kind of figure out where that's gonna fit in the roles of things. But certainly from marketing perspectives, from creating documents, from building content, I think that is something that could really streamline and speed that process. I was just as an aside, I was just chatting with my brother, and he said he went on ChatGPT and said, "Hey, I want to plan a trip to Washington with my kids. How do I do that, to Washington D.C.?" And it gave him a complete itinerary. So you think about that from if you're a travel agent, that could be a little bit interesting that you can get your travel plans done for you automatically. Anyway, it's evolving. It's brand new from the point, but I think there's going to be a lot of applications that'll play out in.
I want to add on to that, where I feel like AI is just another tool that's going to make it so we don't have to do the boring, mundane tasks anymore. And it goes back to, like, look at last mile delivery. Like years ago, that was such a manual process. And granted, there's a lot more solutions out there. But when I think of how do customers drive more efficient, more sustainable, less energy use last mile delivery systems, AI could be one of those things that looks at, hey, you're trending. Well, if I'm consistently delivering to this, this building every day consistently, or this day every week, how do I build in trend models to make sure that I'm doing stuff more efficiently? Or if I'm building pallets of product that are going from my distribution center to all these different stores, how do I best leverage from the vehicles that I have available to the materials that I have currently in stock to the time that I have to package those goods? What's the best decision and outcome that I can make for my company that is going to give me the most reward for the resources that I have? And that's how I see AI is truly making an impact. Yeah, there's always going to be those, I would say, jobs or those tasks out there that are getting shifted as technology comes into play. But then again, that's been around for the last 200 years now. It's not like technology isn't out there. If you're going through the drive-thru, you're using an ATM. You might be ordering something on your mobile phone instead of calling up over a telephone. Technology is a way of our life now, and especially technology is a way of life of younger generations. And we're going to see more and more younger generations move into more, or I guess you could say more advanced roles where they leverage technology as just a way of life to make us more productive down the road. So yeah, with that said, great question on that, Brett. I appreciate it. John, question back to you on this one. When we look at what companies are facing risks, there's a lot of discussions that are out there right now on the way the economy is going to move and all that stuff. But what is some things that manufacturers or people in the supply chain or the logistics or 3PL industry, what are some things that they can look at doing to reduce the risk that they might face in the upcoming year? I know that's a broad question, right? Because we can dive a lot more specific. But what are some things that are out there that can help reduce their risks when it comes to uncertainty going into the year ahead?
Yeah, I think if you focus on the trend base, we've had a lot of disruptions that some are short-term disruptions that you can they slow you down and you can jump over them. Other ones are longer disruptions, like when the ports get jammed up or when you can't find truckers to move your products. But I think the trends that we're starting to see and the focus on the trends, and the one that is coming out just over and over again is the workforce piece is not going to get better. In fact, it's going to become more difficult. So if you say, what should we be doing? And there's companies that I was talking with over the past couple of days where, they say, if we can't get the people, what do we do? And that's this automation piece. And so one is making the jobs easier and more efficient with automation, but also raising the technology of the jobs and making them more interesting and more dynamic so that people are more inclined to come into the supply chain and stay. So that the workforce piece is a big one. There's a lot of geopolitical uncertainty right now, and in particular, if all your supplies come from China, for example, you might be thinking about how to deleverage that risk, and we're seeing a big investment in Mexico, where people are trying to nearshore things, bring it closer, and so that they have options. But similar is they can't bring it closer and just drive up their costs. So that is another play for automation, is if you do nearshore it and you build a facility or you expand a facility, you can't just throw people at it because you can't get them. So I think, some of those type of risks, and then building, I mentioned earlier, building in the models where you have the transparency and you have the ability to know when you have a problem and to be able to adjust to it. And that's this whole data and putting the data into meaningful solutions. People talk about big data and everybody goes, oh, that's great, but just tell me what I need to know. And that's, getting the information that you need to be able to make those decisions. We start to see now, consumer demand is shifting. It's actually reducing. The Fed is putting the brakes on and trying to slow down inflation, and ultimately they will slow down buying. And so companies will find themselves, under cost pressures and trying to figure out how to best get the efficiencies in their operation. And it comes back to driving the investments. And there's many companies that are way ahead on this. They've seen it coming. And even before COVID, they were investing in these technologies. Now there's some companies that might be behind and they're forced to get into it. But it all kind of comes back to, driving the efficiencies in the operation, reducing the distance of your supply chain, and knowing where your products are and how to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, no, that's great. Derek added a great add on to this. Solving the equation is not a one answer solution. It's a multitude of things, e.g., automation, technology, capacity, strategy, on-demand labor. It's multiple things. And I think, to add on to that, just doing a plug back into it, how do we de-risk what we're going to see in the unseen forecast? I think it's by attending a trade show that might be coming up next month. And if you're joining us halfway through the session today, I'm on having a great conversation with John Paxton. He's the CEO of MHI, and also Daniel McKinnon. He is the executive vice president of exhibitions. And really, we're having a conversation talking about supply chain, talking about what we see as predictions going the year, but also how do we leverage the resources that are available to us. To push us through uncertain times, but also drive productivity, drive a higher engaged workforce, and reduce our risk at the end of the day. So with that being said, I think one of the things that we can do to reduce our risk is attending trade shows. And the one thing that I think there's a misconception about trade shows is, you just go there and you walk the show floor for a day and then you leave. There's so much more that happens at a trade show than just what's happening on the expo floor for the time you're just running through it. Daniel, can you dive into more detail on what we're expecting to see at ProMat in Chicago, between the networking, between all the events? What is happening outside the expo floor?
Well, so there's a lot going on the expo floor, and a lot of people come to ProMat because of the machinery and equipment and products. However, you're correct. It's not just that. You don't want to just walk around the show floor. There's three really great opportunities at trade shows, big trade shows. One would be, business development, and finding solutions and helping your business. The other one would be networking, and the third one would be education. And I think that the second two are based on what your question, what you're seeking. We have so many things outside of the show floor that are so important and so critical to somebody's experience, to the attendees' experience. The 4 keynotes are really amazing. They provide, not necessarily industry specific content, but they provide inspiration and they provide entertainment, and they provide opportunities for people to discuss common matters of things that are concerning to them and their families. And I think that's so important. We're human beings, and we don't just, have to work 24/7. These things are fun. They're interesting. They're compelling. And they will help an individual have a better experience at ProMat. John is actually on one of those keynotes, and he's leading a panel of industry experts to introduce our annual industry report, which is key. And that's obviously very industry specific. We also have Jose Andres, who's the World Kitchen, and obviously a very compelling story. You can see here we've got Ron Howard. Everybody knows him. And then we have a great Women in Leadership from Awesome, which is a long acronym, but basically it's talking to us with valuable, inspirational topics on women leadership and the future of a more diverse industry, which we all need and we all expect to take place. On the show floor, even though it's not part of the show floor, we have 155 educational sessions. That is people providing real-time solutions and a quick clip. If you're seeking, I saw one question on here was, how do we make the automation work, or how do we connect it to our, to the rest of our machines, and how do we create this? It's very daunting to think about it. Well, those are the kind of answers that you can seek at ProMat and that you can find at ProMat. If you don't find it in a session, you can find it with a colleague, with the 50,000 plus or minus people that will be there. Talk to them. We want people to share their ideas and to value other people's opinion, and you see a lot of that there. We also have a Work Connects, and Work is the Warehousing Educational Resource Council, and they'll be providing an opportunity to sit down with people involved in the education of the warehouse and be more informed with some direct content that focuses just on them. There's a young professionals reception, and certainly not only do we want to see diversity in many different aspects in our industry, that includes age as well. We need younger people to understand and appreciate the value, the integrity of labor and the integrity of this business. And it's something John was talking about, workforce issues. that will be facing us for some time. Let's bring people up in this business and get them involved and get them promoted and give them more access to give them a seat at the table. And I think that's what something MHI is trying to do. And one more, just really, in addition to all the theaters and all the education and all the I guess content that we're providing at ProMat, one new and very interesting topic is our startup pavilion, because in the past we haven't really, we've been more old-fashioned in how we approached it, and we wanted existing companies to come on board and exhibit and show their products and services to our attendees. Well, now we'd like to see new companies, brand new companies that will align with our MHI startup community, and certainly it's something we want to show off. We're super excited about it. And we hope that all the attendees will go and visit that destination of 10 qualified startup organizations, and the most innovative startup will be voted on in real time on the show floor, and will be announced during our industry night on Wednesday evening, where we've got funny man Nate Bargatze doing a show. He and John are doing a little stand up during industry night.
There you go. I had to watch that just for John doing that stand-up comedy. That's going to be exciting. The one thing I think that's I've always enjoyed outside just walking on the show floor is, seeing all that technology, is looking through the sessions. And I was, when you were talking there, Daniel, I went and said, okay, what are all the on-floor seminars that are out there? And I think this is great, right? If you're an end user and you say, oh, I want to learn more about, let's just do IoT, for example. Here's a bunch of sessions that are having IoT and smart manufacturing and smart fulfillment. So you can really go on and look at the on-floor sessions and find who's talking about what that is most relatable to me. With that being said, and as we wrap up kind of our final questions, what can attendees do to best prepare for ProMat besides going online and registering? What are some things that you could say? Don't attend this event unless you're doing this, or you're preparing ahead of time, and John and Daniel both love your insight on it.
So we could provide a lot of information on this. I think there's a couple of topics that are very important to understand and to appreciate before getting to Chicago. Even for those people that have been to Modex and ProMat in the past, ProMat 2023 is exponentially larger than it ever has been before. It is very large. It would be very difficult to go into it without a plan. In my mind, the best way to make a plan is by using our mobile app, which will have all of our exhibitors, all the sessions, a full schedule, everything that one would require in order to approach a relatively intimidating scale of a trade show. And also you're able to resource specific information using the mobile app or our website in order to help this plan. That being noted, one of the best opportunities that exists at a trade show, outside of like the five senses of what you can taste and smell and touch and feel, outside of that, it's the serendipity that exists when you are actually just walking around. When you're just walking from booth to booth and you run into somebody that you haven't seen, you see a product you've never seen before, there's some kind of software that really catches your eye. That serendipity is what makes trade shows great. And it's an opportunity for an experience of great value for an attendee to approach it with a plan, but also expecting something unexpected and positive to happen.
Awesome. John, what do you have to add on to that?
Yeah, with the size and the scale of the show, plan to spend the time there. Really one day is not enough. You really need 3 days if you want to serve and hit all the things that you need to bring yourself up to speed. Another area is we feature innovation awards, and we have over 110 innovations that were submitted to our awards panel. But each of those on the show floor, you'll see a sticker that says they're registered as part of the Innovation Award. So, and they're listed out individually, so you can even target new products, new ideas. So if you say, okay, I want to find out what's new on the trade show floor, look at the Innovation Award submissions. That's another way to kind of plan your event and see what's new. But I would really encourage you to take the time to attend the education sessions. There's so many, obviously you can't attend them all, but after the show, they actually will be put online so that if you miss one or don't have the opportunity, you can go back and catch that. And attending the events, attending the keynotes, attending the industry night, have fun with it. Many of the exhibitors do after hours type events where they're sharing their company information and that. So get involved with those and make it a 2 or 3 day process or a 4 day process where you really engage throughout the whole event, and you'll come back with new ideas, you'll come back energized, and you'll come back with solutions for your company, and you'll raise your level of knowledge in supply chain world.
And it's Jake, it's really too bad that ProMat is in sleepy old Chicago where there's no, good restaurants or places to go.
Or a home of really good baseball teams.
Yeah. Well, Modex is in Atlanta, so that we got that covered.
Yeah,
but Chicago's a great place to. Chicago is a fantastic city of epic, global significance, and that's part of the trade show experience. Also, is off the show floor. Have a good dinner with your friends and your colleagues, and make it count as a real experience.
Yeah. Adding on to this, Greg, real quick. Greg mentioned for international attendees, ProMat is also a feature in international delegation program that is co-organized with the U.S. Department of Commerce Trade Event Partnership Program, TEP. Glad they found an acronym for that. Through TEP, ProMat works with the U.S. Commerce Services. Let me finish the rest of it real quick. And the U.S. embassies and consult worldwide to build relationships between exhibitors and attendees. So a lot of resources there for international attendees as well. Greg, thanks for mentioning that. So as we wrap things up, I'm going to open the floor real quick. John and Daniel, anything that you guys want to add, as we kind of wrap up this conversation?
Well, along those lines with the international attendees, we have an international dinner, which we didn't mention, which is on Sunday night, and we welcome all international attendees to come to that, and it's just an opportunity to meet people and to welcome the international attendees to our event.
Awesome.
And exhibitors.
Perfect. Awesome. Daniel, any other things that you want to add?
There's just so much going on, and we're just so happy to be able to provide this platform for this association and for this community. If you haven't been, you'll really be. It's really a great opportunity for you on so many different levels. There's no cost to attend, so
awesome. Well, there you go. If you want to attend or if you have not registered yet, make sure you go on to promatshow.com and register March 20th through the 23rd in the great state of Illinois, home of the Chicago Cubs. It's going to be a great time. We hope to see you there. I'll be walking the show floor the entire week, creating a lot of amazing content with a film crew going around interviewing a lot of exhibitors and attendees. But with that, we're going to leave you with a quick 2-minute wrap-up video as we head out. And I hope you enjoy this. And once again, we hope to see you in Chicago next month. John, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. And we'll see everyone soon.
Thanks.
Bye.